it comes to our dating lives, most of us say things like, the perfect partner is out there, I just haven't found them yet. You should never settle, always keep your standards high. When I find the one, I'll just know, like everything will click. Whether you've been in and out of mediocre relationships and you finally realize that you deserve better, or you've never had a relationship, your entire understanding of how they work and operate is based on what you've seen on TikTok or what you've seen with your friends. A lot of us have crafted an idea of what would be the perfect partner. But the thing is, this is a problem. People will probably tell you, I don't know how you're single. I'm surprised you've never dated anyone. And low-key, you don't know why either. But I've come to learn a couple of reasons why this can actually be a big problem. Hey, if you're new, I'm Christina and I make videos for people who are feeling lonely. If you're a people pleaser, overachiever, over anything else, you're in the right place. Gen Z is very unlucky when it comes to dating because I feel like we have the hardest access to like finding a partner. Sure, dating apps exist, but those just aren't a very useful place to actually find a legit relationship. But then on the other hand, we also have absolutely massive amounts of content telling you what you should do in a relationship and what the perfect relationship looks like and how you should behave and how they should treat you and what you should get each other and where you should be going on vacation. It's like you have all this idea of what you should be doing, but then to actually make it happen and actually find someone to make it happen with is incredibly difficult. A couple months ago, I read a book which completely changed my outlook on relationships. It's called How to Not Die Alone by Logan Ury. And she talked all about how like to navigate the dating phase, how to determine what qualities to actually look for in a partner. This is only a problem for certain types of people. Like I feel like wanting to have a perfect partner is only a big deal if you expect yourself to be perfect. Or even perfect isn't even a good word because I know some people, I don't even believe there is such a thing as me being perfect or someone else being perfect. But I think a better word to use is probably like ideal. You probably put a lot of pressure on yourself to have an ideal partner when you see yourself as having like an ideal version of yourself. This is probably something perfectionists struggle with a lot, or like procrastinators struggle with a lot, where you constantly postpone you being good enough for something as like, oh, I'll only be good enough like when I graduate or when I get promotion, when I have more money. The list is endless. But I feel like if you are someone that is constantly postponing things and saying, I'm not good enough yet, you'll also have that same expectation for a partner. The more I get older and the more I see like friendship relationships, the more I realize like your relationship is a reflection of you. Like you couldn't be an amazing person and be with another person who's like a scumbag or like an asshole or so rude or just so disrespectful, because in a weird way you being with them does reflect you as well. Your relationship reflects your standards. So sometimes that reasoning I think is why some people like would prefer to stay single, because it's like I don't even want to put up with all the bad crap that's out there. Like I don't want to put up with that. I'd rather just be on my own. And high standards are important because high standards is how you protect yourself from like all those terrible situations that I described. High standards is an amazing shield for terrible quality experiences and terrible relationships. But then I also think high standards on the flip side can be a bit of like a defense mechanism and a bit of a coping strategy to stay single.
There's no such thing as the perfect person for you. There's only someone you're willing to make it work with. Those people who have 10-page lists to tick off every item on the ideal partner checklist aren't going to check off every box. Focusing on connection with someone on a deeper level, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, regardless of them being perfect, in my opinion, matters more. Love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about creating a perfect harmony. Two imperfect souls choosing each other every day.
This was one of the biggest concepts that I learned from that book, is that there is no ideal partner, there is no perfect partner. Even soulmate is a bit of a push. It's more so, who do you want to grow with? Like this creator said, like, there's no perfect partner, there's only a perfect harmony. It's a very difficult shift to make if you're someone that's like so used to making yourself perfect and so used to like working to be better, and like you're so used to self-help and self-development, and like you'll never settle with yourself. So it's weird to think like, in a weird way, you have to settle for a partner. It's not settling, but it's more so like learning to accept. When it comes to relationships, the reason why you might be struggling and people look at you and like they're like, how are you single? It's because you don't actually need to find the ideal partner. It's more the ideal partner to work with and grow with. The next thing I want to talk about is the illusion of completion. To a lot of people in the past, the idea of like finding my other half or like finally finding love that makes me feel complete was like a big thing. People needed like a relationship to kind of feel complete, as though like the work is amazing, friendships are amazing, like just personal life is amazing, but like the love life, that will make them feel complete. And in particular, the people that struggle a lot with dating in this domain where it's like they're quite perfectionist. They are amazing themselves and they have high standards for themselves. They're so used to working on themselves, improving and getting better, that they also just will not settle at all when it comes to a partner. Sometimes I think this all comes from maybe like a lack of love and support growing up. Like maybe growing up, if your parents weren't always there for you, or kind of like you kind of like raised yourself in a way. There were times when I kind of felt like that. Like I'd get myself up at like 9 years old, take myself to school, bring myself back. Like I was the one living my own life. If it felt like there was something missing growing up, I feel like you're going to be extra determined to fill that, like to the extreme later on in life. And then what that means is that some of us, we are basing like what we want in a partner, in a relationship, not on like a reality that we had, but more on a fantasy that we have now. It's like we actually don't have a healthy model of a relationship to base our wants off of. We're now like just creating it for ourselves from the will of our own minds. But then that means like some of it is going to be a little bit unrealistic as well. Unrealistic is always a harsh word in dating because it's always very like it hurts a lot to know that like the things I want aren't realistic. And then that's when like delusion can kick in, and TikTok will tell you to be delulu and like manifest it, like it'll happen. I'm convinced some of the hardest working people and the most driven, successful people probably had a really tough upbringing where like that drive and that ambition just comes from a place of lack. A lack of confidence, or a lack of self-esteem, a lack of love from your parents, a lack of presence from your parents, a lack of friendships, a lack of money growing up. And when it comes to dating, sometimes that can manifest as like you're trying to complete yourself. Like when you get the partner, then you'll be okay. When you get engaged, then finally like my life is complete. My work's great, my personal life is great, and my love life is great. Going back to fantasy, sometimes I find it quite interesting to see the princess treatment rhetoric on TikTok, where basically, if you don't know what it is, it's like when a woman is treated like a princess, their partner will like open doors for them, pay for meals, buy them flowers. A lot of girls online talk about this as like they're trying to get that in relationships, and then there's a lot of women who kind of say like this is the only thing I'll put up with, like I'll never settle for less than this. And in my opinion, this has slowly become the new trophy of what you should have in a relationship. Like for a long time on Instagram, it was like the surprise balloons, you know, the Valentine's rose petals on the bed, like hotel room surprise. That was kind of like the it thing to have. Whereas now I feel like from what I'm seeing, it's more shifting towards like, is he treating you like this? Like, does he do this for you? Like, what does your partner actually do? That is now the thing to strive for. And I think about being single and contemplating what you'd want in a partner and having the free time and space to think about what you'd want, is that sometimes it just feels like you're trying to like build like, it's kind of like building a boyfriend in a factory sort of way. Like you can just think up whatever you want in your mind. And again, if you've not had a healthy relationship to model this off of, you don't have like a healthy father figure, or you don't have like an older brother that treated you well and respected you and was kind to you and loved you and supported you. Like if you don't have healthy male figures in your life to model this off of, sometimes it does feel like a fantasy that you're just building up in a factory and you can pick and choose whatever you want. And there's nothing wrong with that in itself. It's just the fact that you don't see where it's no longer like a reality. You don't see where the reality ends and the fantasy starts because you've not had that as a reality in the past. And this becomes a problem when, you know, you kind of date and your dating's going on, you're kind of getting older, or you're getting more frustrated, and you start to project and become unhappy with what's out there because you say like, there's no good men left, or I'm too good for these guys, I'm too good for him, I'm too good for him. Because at a certain point you do have to recognize like humans are flawed people. The only reason you'd be looking for a perfect partner is because you expect yourself to be perfect. But that in itself is a flawed assumption, because we all know we're not perfect, yet we want a perfect partner. It's just not giving. Being a perfectionist can make your work and your career amazing, because in a weird way, as a perfectionist, you have to train yourself to see kind of the flaws. Where can we improve? What's wrong with this, and how can we improve it? And if you do that enough at work, you will become a person who's like very, very accomplished, and you'll become someone who's very good at what you do, very good at improving things, going from level 1 to level 2 to level 10. But then in dating, it doesn't quite work like that. Like if you date someone with a flaw or with a beige flag, if other than this beige flag, they were a great candidate and they were amazing and they actually made you like laugh a bunch of times on the date, but then like you're hung up on this beige flag, it's weirdly the only thing you can focus on, because like you've trained yourself throughout your whole life, from work to friendships to relationships, to like focus on the flaws. And like it's a hard trait to cut off in your dating life. But what I've come to learn from this book and like from the things I've seen is like, you can't have like a maximizing approach to relationships where you're trying to maximize as much as you can get from a partner. Like, you have to have a bit more of an acceptance approach and like find someone that you feel compatible enough with to then grow with. Going back to the sort of upbringing, healthy male figures, healthy father figures thing, I don't want to place too much emphasis on like father figure, because I don't even think it has to be a dad. It's more like, do you have a healthy male role that like, do you have a healthy older male in your life that like showed you what actual love and affection and support looks like? Because it actually doesn't even have to be sort of like a mum dad sort of thing. It could actually be like a grandparent grandfather thing. It could be an auntie and uncle. It's just like, it doesn't have to be like relationship, to be fair. It could actually just be like, do you have an example of older figures in your life, elders in your life that were able to demonstrate to you what unconditional love and support looked like? Like, I feel like the people that struggle in dating probably don't have an example of that. You only have examples of people that, oh, you're only good enough for me when you do this, or I'm only gonna love you when you take out the trash. I'm only gonna be here for you when you pay this thing or when you pay these bills. If that's missing and it was more conditional love, I'll love you if. I'll love you when. I'll love you only when you do this. If that's the only model you'll have, you'll without even trying, you'll model that in your own relationships as well. I'm only going to go out with a guy that meditates, goes to the gym, reads these books and does these things because that's what's enough for me. Like, I wouldn't settle for less. And I know people might disagree with this, and that's totally fine. Like, I feel like everyone's approach to relationships is so different for obvious reasons. We're all very different people. And I feel like we can all be correct in our own way, if you know what I mean. But one thing I just don't even think is up for debate is just the fact that if you are a perfectionist, this is quite a bad trait in dating. It makes your life harder. It makes you focus on the flaws without even trying. It makes you think high standards is what determines a good relationship and what determines me getting a good partner. But actually, it's more so an approach of acceptance. Another problem we have is that we chase excitement and not peace. In the book that I referenced earlier, that's when the author talks about like the spark. Like, people are chasing like such a magnitude of excitement and like we have so much in common and like we get along so well and you're so attractive and you're so attractive. Like, we are chasing a high. I say we. Some people chase a high. A lot of people are chasing that high and that like chemistry, like the sudden euphoria that you guys have so much in common, or you get along like a house on fire. Weird coincidences like his brother's name is your brother's name, or you guys both have the same dog with the same name. Like, that spark is what people chase when actually it should be peace. When I was looking into this, there is actually research that shows people that have been through trauma, like essentially like really rough times growing up where it's like emotionally changed you and you're kind of a different person because of it. These kinds of people do gravitate to more like stimulating and emotion evoking experiences. Like, things that are very like stable, settled and calm don't really have the same pull that these other like exciting and new experiences do to traumatize people. That's why people that tend to be people that have a bit of like an unstable childhood or unstable upbringing tend to be more insecurely attached. They'll be the anxious or the avoidant attachment. Essentially, the ultimate goal of a relationship is growth, not perfection. You won't know that you've had the perfect, most fulfilling, most genuine relationship when your relationship looks like Instagram or looks like one of those couple goals TikToks. You'll know you have a fulfilling and heartfelt relationship when actually you guys are both growing together and you both have unconditional love and support for each other. The relationship isn't transactional. It isn't saying that you have to meet a certain standard to be good enough for me. It's more so you are always accepted and loved as you are. I know that's cringe, but I've seen so many different videos where people are talking to a couple that have been together for 40 years or 50 years, and people are always asking them like, what's the secret? They always seem to say things along the lines of like communication or growing together, having your own personal hobbies outside of the relationship, like trying not to lose yourself. It's almost like relationships on a finish line that you're running towards. They're more, once you're in them, they are like the starting point. Like, it's the starting point of you kind of growing together. And as someone who's currently single, the way I read into that for myself is like, I might be kind of going on dates now and trying to get into a relationship, but it's not like I'm seeing that as like the finish line. Like, okay, I've got a boyfriend, I'm done. It's more so, at that stage, I would just be getting started. I'm not expecting them to be perfect, and I hope they wouldn't expect me to be perfect, but I think we do expect that we'd able to work through things together.